Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. We'll be starting shortly as you would appreciate. Maghrib is just finishing now. So we'll wait for maybe a couple of more minutes before we make a start, inshallah. So bear with us. Get your pen and paper and be ready. Our stars is here already, inshallah. We'll be starting shortly. Bear with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Um, I think we'll make a start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We testify to his oneness. We ask him to send his salah and salutations on the noble soul of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his household, his companions, and those that follow this path until the day of accountability. We welcome everyone to this last Usrah before the blessed month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a very beneficial session. As we know, we started the preparation for Ramadan series in our a fortnight ago, where we went through some of the importance of fasting itself and how we can make preparation for it. And today, as part of that preparation, we'll be going through the fiqh, or the rulings with regards to fasting itself. As the scholars would say, that you should not embark on any act of worship without, or anything really as a Muslim, without knowing the ruling Islamically of that particular thing. If it's a trade or a job you're going into, more so when it comes to act of worship, you need to know exactly the do's and don'ts so that that act of worship could be accepted from you. So, inshallah, as part of our commitments as MFB, to make sure, inshallah, our viewers and all our members have the right knowledge and get maximum benefit from whatever they do as act of worship, we are presenting to you today, alhamdulillah, the fiqh of fasting in the month of Ramadan. And we will have with us the very first time our ustad, our sheikh, who we all know, a lot of us know from back home in Nigeria in our MSS days. Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure really to have him with us today in the person of Ustaz Sheikh Ayub Abdul Ghani. We'll be going through some of those rulings with for us, inshallah. So I would advise everyone to get their pen and paper. If you have any questions, because as it does the presentation, you might have a question that comes to your mind. Try to write it down. At the end, inshallah, we'll have ample time to answer those questions. And we'll stick to questions related to fasting and Ramadan, because in the next few days, inshallah, we'll be entering into that month. So we'll give priority to those questions. Without much ado, I would invite to the stage, my invisible stage, my Ustaz Ayub Abdul Ghani. فليتفضل مشكورا أحسن الله إليكم يا أستاذ. Ustaz, can you hear us? نعم.
Loud
نعم.
and clear, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you as well.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. Am I audible?
Very clear, sir. Very clear, sir. نعم.
Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أهله وصحبه ومن اتبع يوم الدين مع بعد. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the world. May the peace and blessing of Allah be upon our noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companions, and those that will be on this path until the day of resurrection. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to count us as one of them. Dear brothers and sisters, it's my pleasure to be with us today. And even without seeing some faces, I've seen some names, and those names are really very familiar. So I'm at home. My prayer is may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spare our lives to witness this Ramadan. Allahumma balighna Ramadan. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us strength, increase us in iman and taqwa, so that we can maximize the benefit in this month of Ramadan that is forthcoming. As my respected brother has rightly said, today, just as a reminder, we'll be looking at an important aspect of our deen, Ramadan, the fiqh of Ramadan. Yes, some of these things may not be new to some of us, but it's very important. And some it may be new to some of the what we're going to discuss today will be new to some of us as well. Either way, I want to assure you Any time we spend together here can never be a waste because it's a form of ibadah and Allah will always reward you for anything you do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, we'll be looking at Fiqh of Ramadan. How I want to start is why Ramadan? We all know why Ramadan. We know the importance of Ramadan. But just as a reminder, allow me to quickly mention that it was an injunction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you're a Muslim, then you must fast in the month of Ramadan. As Allah rightly said there, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. The same word that Allah used when He said كتب عليكم القتال, that Allah has ordained upon you Muslims to fight for the sake of Allah. The same word that Allah used there, كتب عليكم. I have made it obligatory, I have decreed it upon you to fast, just like I decreed upon those before you. That is why it is mandatory. It is one of the pillars of Islam. So anybody that refuses to fast and is able to fast is indeed not a Muslim because he has actually validated one of the pillars of Islam. Number two, Rasulullah said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Man sama Ramadan, whosoever fast in the month of Ramadan, imana, with faith, wahtisaban, and seeking, hoping that Allah will reward him. Gufrullahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi. All his past sins will be forgiven. Allah Akbar. You can see how beautiful or how great the month of Ramadan is. Furthermore, Rasulullah said, you see, Ramadan ila Ramadan, mukaffiratun ma bainahun, ida ijtanaba al-kabair. That you see, one Ramadan to another Ramadan is a way of expiation for the sins one might have committed between the intervals, provided one move away from major sins. Because for any major sin, it's very important that we do what we call a tawbah. A tawbah is very important if it is a major sin. Then, if one has done tawbah, Ramadan will be a vehicle to serve as expiation for all things one might have committed. Lastly, why Ramadan? One day Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was on the minbar. Then they just heard him saying, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. Then the companions were surprised. So when he descended from minbar, they now asked him, Ya Rasulullah, why are you saying Ameen, Ameen, Ameen? He said, Inna Jibrila atani. Jibril came to me. Faqal, and he said, Man adraka shahr Ramadan. Whosoever that Ramadan meet, that is, whoever is alive and is able to meet Ramadan, walam yukfar. But despite that, he does not see Allah's forgiveness. Fadakhala now. Such person will be made to enter hellfire. Fab'adahullah, then Allah will be far from him. Kul Amin. When Jibril said this, Jibril said, Kul Amin. Say Amin. Then Fakultu Amin. And he said, I actually now said Amin. That is, he repeated that. Meaning that Ramadan A lot happened during that period that Allah made easy for anyone to see Allah's forgiveness. If that Ramadan now comes due to one's attitude during that time, due to one's behavior, is still not able to see Allah's forgiveness, he cannot see Allah's forgiveness again. This is exactly what this one means, because he will need to enter hellfire. May Allah save us from this. So, this tells us that Ramadan is so important, we should actually work towards it. Now, let's now kickstart the topic that has been given to me. Why is the Fiqh of Ramadan? Why do you have to study the Fiqh of Ramadan? And what is Fiqh of Ramadan? You know, Fiqh means to understand Ramadan, how to perform Ramadan. What are those things you need to do in it? What are those things you shouldn't do? What are those things that you need to have a proper understanding so that you don't just make life difficult for yourself? This is what they call Fiqh generally of Ramadan. So why do you have to study it? Very simply put, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly. How is this possible? If you have the proper understanding of Ramadan, it affords you the opportunity to know what are those things that will invalidate your fasting unknowingly, or those things that in actual fact they don't invalidate your fasting. And if you don't have proper understanding of such things, you just be going through unnecessary hardship with no reward, with no benefit. And some may even die out of it, out of ignorance. That is why someone said, if you don't know, first al hala dik in kuntum la ta'lamun. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. Ignorance, you cannot do Islam with ignorance. And on that note, let's remember the case that happened in time of Rasulullah when the leader led his troop on an expedition, and one of them had a deep cut in his head. And by happenstance, he slept and he had a wet dream. And it was very cold. And it was having deep cut. But he went to the leader and said, with this in this situation, how can I pray? With this deep cut and I had wet dream, do I need to take ghusl or not? He said, you have to take ghusl, because how are you going to pray without ghusl? That was how that person took ghusl and he died when he did this. On get to Rasulullah, Rasulullah became so angry and actually told him, if you don't know, why do you have to instruct someone to do such thing? Fas'al hala dikri in kuntum la ta'lamun. You should ask those people that know if you don't know. And in actual fact, it is better to make mistake on the side of caution than for you to have done what you did and you kill your brother. So, dear brothers and sisters, those of you listening to me today, please don't let us underestimate what we want to study today, what we want to look at together today. Is so important because it's through it that we're going to have proper understanding and appreciation of how Islam is so natural that it goes with the feature of man. And that is why Islam, there's no alternative to it. And is a solution to the whole world problems. So Ramadan, despite the fact that it restricted you in some things, there's a lot of benefit in it. Despite that it restricted you on some things, based on knowledge, you can see that it is actually religion of humanity in many aspects, as we're going to see, inshallah, as we proceed. Second reason why we have to study Fiqh of Ramadan is that Allah said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam. I have prescribed fasting upon you. That means it is not, if somebody has prescribed something, that means he has laid down some rules. some terms, some conditions that need to be followed. That means we need to understand those things. Otherwise, somebody will be doing something, thinking that it's Ramadan, that is fasting Ramadan. But it is, as someone rightly said, depending on your intention, somebody will get the word that is fasting month of Ramadan. But depending on intention, that person is just going on hunger strike alone without any reward or any benefit. It is having proper fiqh, that's the fiqh of Ramadan, that will give us clarity on subject of this nature. So, second reason, simply put, is because Allah instructed us. He is in the best position to tell us how we should do it. And the only way we can understand this is through proper understanding of fiqh of Ramadan. So, based on these two reasons, I want to congratulate and appreciate the organizer of today's lecture to have actually included in the series the Fiqh of Ramadan, especially since we are in UK, we need to look at some important context. Looking at Ramadan as we are in UK, for example, you are, and I think these periods were going to have a long summer fast up to 6 to 18 plus. I never knew what this meant until when I traveled to Canada that time. I spent 1 week. It was the first week of Ramadan. Immediately after that 1 week, I quickly rushed back to Saudi Arabia. I said, no, this is tough. You can only have about 2 hours or day about 3 hours between Maghrib Isha and for the Sahur. It was so hectic. It was tough. But alhamdulillah, I spent 1 week and I ran back. So it was not a surprise that some of our colleagues here that are Saudis, if they're in some part of the Europe, or let's say Canada, or place like that, immediately in Ramadan period, they just rush back to Saudi here to fast and they can go back. Long summer fast. What does Islam says about this? How can you really make best out of that period? With all the challenges that you may have in UK, the work and school schedules may not easy. Some are even doing 2 to 3 works so that to make the two hands meet. All these are challenges. Medical treatments of different kinds. Interesting, you have diverse Muslim community as well. It's not like Saudi Arabia here that we have a constitutional authority and everybody listens to that constitutional authority, no matter who you are. If they say this is the day of Ramadan, that is the day of Ramadan. Nobody can say anything else. Nobody. But in your own case, it's a free world. Some people Jama can come together and say, well, we are following this. And that's when I want to actually declare our own day to start fasting, and nothing will happen. So you have some of these challenges. So Ramadan in UK, looking at all these things are some of the things that the organizer of the event realized and said, okay, let us have discussion around fiqh of Ramadan. And I think it's a worthwhile effort. So as I've been said, please, I may not cover everything. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to put down those things. And inshallah, after my presentation, we can always discuss those things. Inshallah. All right, let's start. What is Psalm? This is what fiqh we have to understand. You see, Psalm is to abstain from specific nullifiers. What are these nullifiers? That's what we will be going through today, inshallah. And what are those things that you may think they are nullifiers and they are not nullifiers? We shall be going through all these things today, inshallah. You have to abstain from some of these specific nullifiers from Fajr until Maghrib with clear intention that we want to fast. These are the two pillars that we need to see in Ramadan. I'm still in when we want to fast Ramadan. And I'm still going to mention that I emphasize it because it's very important. Number two, when does fasting become obligatory? This is another thing that you need to understand. Anybody that want to fast in Ramadan must be a Muslim. So everybody just say, I like Muslims. I like the way I like that time when they fast. Okay, I want to fast with them. No, until they declare Kalimat Shahada, Anything he does is just it's just go on hunger strike. Nothing is that's not fast as Islam has prescribed it. He has to be a Muslim. That person must be an adult that is matured. So that is why for young children, it's just to encourage them. Fasting is not compulsory for on them or for them in the month of Ramadan. The person must be sane. I think this is very clear. That an insane person who was out of his senses cannot actually fast correctly. Then should be able. That is that person not sick that do not allow him to fast. And must be a resident. Must be a resident at the time you want to fast. That's why Allah said, وَإِن كُنتُم مَرْضَىٰ أَوْ عَلَىٰ سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. Whoever is ill that is not able or is on a journey, then he should actually count those days he has missed and pay them back. So these are the things that you need to know for someone to actually fast. You see, the traveling, let's quickly mention that now. Yes, the option is there that وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. To fast is better, it's true. So if you're able, fine. If you know where you're going to and you can cope, fine, you can fast. But if it will so burdensome on you, Islam has given you a form of relief here. Eat, break your fast, and when you turn back to your destination or you get to your destination, then you can fast. The only thing is that you just need to pay it back when you have settled down. This is what we need to realize, and as Muslims, we need to follow. You have seen instances when some people they're coming from one extreme location to another extreme location. For instance, you are going from a very cold region, maybe it is complete winter, and you're coming to Saudi that is extremely hot. Maybe it's the peak of summer. If you don't really understand this very well, you have seen instances of people that they became so dehydrated that they started spitting blood. At that time, you don't subject yourself to such stress that may even lead to death. We have seen instead of people that want to do such thing and led to the death of such person. Allah has not made this thing difficult for us. It is يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. Allah has made this religion easy for you, and it's not. He doesn't want to make it difficult for you. This is one thing you have to realize and abide by. But if you can fast, you know the terrain, and you are traveling, it's good for you to be able to fast. There's no problem. So please let us always understand these differences and let us abide accordingly. Now, there are two pillars that you need to follow. This is one of the fiqh you need to understand. Anytime you want to fast Ramadan, these two pillars are so important. Number one, the intention. And last, Rasul has made it clear. Action are judged by intention. What make the difference between you're just fasting during Monday, Thursday, and Ramadan? It is with intention. But this intention is a matter of the heart, not something that you have to verbalize. For example, it's not true that, okay, I'm fasting tomorrow is enough as intention. Already, because we already know that tomorrow is Ramadan is sufficient. That means they already made the intention. So the intention is so important. That is what differentiates compulsory act, like you want to pray Zura Maghrib and nothing. So the intention that you want to fast Ramadan is also so important that if it is not there, it's like you're not fasting. But it's not something that require any formula, any no Y2 or so. No, just know that tomorrow is Ramadan and that is sufficient. And inshallah, you have already made your intention. The number two is that you have to abstain from nullifiers. What Allah has called nullifiers, you have to abstain from them. Allah said, Kulu washrabu hatta yatabayyana يتبين لكم الأبيض من الأسود من الفجر فاستغفر الله. Allah said, eat and drink until that one thread of dawn became clear. You can see. من الفجر ثم أتم الصيام إلى الليل. Then you should now complete your fast till uh Layl. That is when it is Maghrib time. So this is what Allah has made clear. That you have to abstain from eating and drinking. But that's not all. This has been from Fajr to Maghrib, and those nullifiers Allah made it clear. Abstain from what Allah has prohibited. These are the two pillars that must be fulfilled if you actually want to fast. Okay, so now this now takes us to the first part of those real fiqh of Ramadan that is important to understand. So, what are those things that break fast? There are some that all scholars agreed upon that all these things nullify your fasting in the month of Ramadan. You must not engage in them. If you engage in them, they're actually big sins. And some may require kafara, and some may require that you just have to pay fidya. So what are those things? For example, intentional eating and drinking. Intentional eating and drinking during the month of Ramadan is actually a big sin. It's a big sin. But the question here is this: do we need to do kafara or we just have to pay it back? Scholars debated this a lot. Scholars debated this a lot. But what Ibn Taymiyyah, Uthaymeen, Sheikh Hussein bin Baz, at the end, what they said, based on looking at all this, is that it is only in the case of sexual intercourse that you have what you call the kafara, which is going to explain that one. But for this one, it's a major sin. You should not do it. But when it happens, seek istighfar, do tawbah, but you just need to pay it back at the end. I mean, it's what has been said. But out of Allah's magnanimity and kindness on us, if someone forgets and eat or drink out of forgetfulness, let's say office lunch meeting, you have forgotten, as in UK, you need to go for coffee or something, and you forgot. You just sip the coffee before you realize that, oh, I'm fasting. Or you're cooking food or you smell food. All these, for instance, do not actually invalidate your soul. They do not invalidate your soul. This is we need to call attention to that we need to realize. Number two, this is actually a big issue. And the way Islam sees this is that if a man and a woman in the month of Ramadan, husband and wife, there shouldn't be anything like intercourse. If that happens, fast is invalidated. Fast is invalidated. So what will happen? If one, I don't pray any one of us falls into that situation, immediately realize that he had to abstain from food and drink for the rest of the day. He has to abstain from food and drink for the rest of the day. And he need to do the following three things. You need to make up the day, seek repentance for what has happened, and that's not all. He's going to do expiation. What are those expiation? It is in this order as we have listed it here. He has to free a slave. He's not able to do that. He has to fast for 2 consecutive months. And if he's not able to do that, now feed 60 poor people. And look about their hikmah behind the way Islam has actually, Rasulullah has actually explained how those things should be done. You can see somebody commit a crime secretly behind the scene. But to atone for that, to expiate for that, look at the first thing Rasulullah said, free a slave. That means, because that in those days, that is no more in existence anyway. But then to free a slave is a lot of money. You see, to expiate for that sin, he has to come to the community to actually expiate, to free a slave that is in bondage. Now, if he's not able to do that, what happened? He has to fast for 2 consecutive months. You see, Allah lesson for that for such person to now fast for 2 consecutive months. Even though it's tough for fast for 2 consecutive months, but it has to be done. But that person, due to one reason or the other, that is valid and is a valid reason, cannot do it, then look at back to community again. He has to feed 60 poor people. Poor people. The equivalent food that he will eat to his satisfaction, he has to feed 60 poor people with such. And with that, he can actually be able to expiate for this act that he has done. This number two. Number three, this is another important point. You see, this is what they call uh, ejaculation by desire. But I have to mention few things here. This is the one that is actually by choice. He actually make it happen. In that situation, his fast is invalidated. But if it happened that he just slept and he has a kind of wet dream, and that was not happened, that does not invalidate his fasting. On this first one, that is by choice that we're talking about, according to scholars, is the one that is real money, which is what we call the real sperm. But if it is pre-ejaculation like al-madhi, scholars differ on this. The madhi is the one that actually is not as thick as money. This one that come before the money, but it is thicker than urine. Somebody differ on this. But the correct opinion, according to what has been looked at, is the opinion that was given that this does not actually invalidate fast. Ibn Taymiyyah, Bombas, Ibn Taymiyyah actually talk extensively on this, but there's no time for us to go through this detail. But they say that does not actually invalidate. But the long and the short story, dear brothers and sisters, that anything that will move us close to all these type of things, we have to be far away from it if we want to make best out of our Ramadan. Number four, menstruation or postnatal bleeding. You all know this one. Immediately that comes up, you have to stop fasting. Even if that menstruation or postnatal bleeding is seen a minute before sunset, a minute before sunset, you have to stop. But the fast is valid. If the lady just feel a kind of cramp, but blood did not come until after sunset, that is okay. She can still see that for that day, her fast is okay. Number five, intentional vomiting. Rasulullah made it clear. Whoever is overcome by vomiting while fasting does not have to make up that fast. But if he vomit intentionally, he must make it up. Intentional vomiting. This, if it is done intentionally, he has to make it up. Maybe he's just feeling some irritation within his stomach and everything. Now he has to put hand into his throat so that he can force that vomit. Then in that situation, that's intentional vomiting. Such person needs to make up his fasting. Number six, coping hijama. This is going to help us a lot in order we're going to look at later on. Rasulullah made it clear. Coping hijama that we call hijama, Rasulullah said that both the person, the couple and the one being cupped, both of them are broken their fast, meaning that they suppose uh, do that during the month of Ramadan, except after Maghrib or thereabout. Even though scholars differ, but this made it clear, and so that is why the stronger contemporary opinion on this is that it actually breaks fast, and as a result, such people need to actually pay their fast. They have to pay back. So that's why we have to avoid this. Now, based on this, let's now look at some interesting contemporary issues, which of course not only in UK, it is everywhere, because based on the guideline given that we need to really bring this closer to us so as to appreciate Fiqh of Ramadan. Those contemporary issues, how does Islam see it? And how can we address it? So this is exactly what we want to quickly look at now. Okay. Are you hearing me or?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Ustaz.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I hear you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I was just seeing that comment now, and you are right. But I think those ones I'll be careful how I say it now. But I think I don't have much of such any longer, so it's okay. All right. Contemporary issues in the UK. What are some of the issues that are of importance that we need to really look into? Number one, before we go to this, let me give how the scholars look at all this. There are two general principles, which you yourself, even before being told, you can always use this as basis. Immediately you ask doctors some questions, immediately you get answers to them, then you'll be able to know where those things will fall. What are those two general usul principles being used by jurists when addressing contemporary issues? Not contemporary issues, there are two. One is what we call the functional principle and the anatomical principle. What is functional principle? What they're saying is that if anything reaches the body, it nourishes the body, it nourishes it, or it is now a kind of substitute for food or drink, or has equivalent effect. Just look at it. It reaches your body, it nourishes it, or is a substitute for food or drink, and or it has equivalent effect. Then know that if it goes into your body, it breaks the fast. It breaks the fast. That's point number one that you have to realize. It reaches the body, it is nutritive, it nourishes your body. It can be food itself or substitute. Then or is equivalent or has equivalent effect. Then it breaks the fast. Now, another second important point they look at is this. If something does not enter via the mouth, it's not through the mouth or nasal, through your nose, for instance, feeding channels. Look at that. It's not through your mouth or through the nose. But and it's not nutritive. It's not nutritive. Then it does not break the fast. It does not break the fast. Why this is important is that there was one hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that said that is Bagul wudu, perfection of wudu. That when you want to perform ablution, always do the perfection of wudu by actually rinsing your nose very well. But in the month of Ramadan, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, no, don't do that so that the water doesn't pass through your nose into your what? Into your throat, then go to your stomach. He said, don't do his bagul wudu during the month of Ramadan. This is how they base this anatomical principle on the fact that if something does not enter via the mouth, and you see they put and it's not nutritive in bracket, that means some scholars, and you're going to see, there's why some differences also comes. It is not nutritive, but it comes through your mouth and nasal. What happened in that situation? And it's not nutritive. You can always have some differences of opinion there, but some is stronger than the other, and we're going to look at which one is stronger at one time or the other. But generally speaking, if something does not enter through your mouth or nasal feeding channels, and then it does not break the fast. In addition, it should not be nutritive, but that is also in some clause because we have some exception to this, as we're going to see. Okay, so these are two general principles being looked at. If you understand this very well, then all the contemporary issues will be a bit clearer, and you are going to realize that we're going to be applying these two principles as we look at most of the contemporary issues that I'm going to explain to us now. Hope I see have time. Number one, blood donation. This is close to cupping, cupping as we have explained, so as I made it clear because it's actually nutritive and that can lead to tiredness and everything. And he said, both person doing it, taking it or receiving it, actually they are broken their fast. So if it is large blood donation, then it actually break fast. Analogy to cupping. So the advice, if you want to do such things, that you should donate after Maghrib if possible, when it's not a time for fasting. But it's an emergency. It's a issue of life and death. Dear brothers and sisters, life is more important to protect it, to safeguard it, than to say you want to fast. In that situation, donate it and make up your fast later on. And Allah will reward you abundantly, inshallah. Allah will reward you abundantly, inshallah. But if it is just you want to take small blood test, maybe they want to just take small sample for analysis to see, to do some tests, that is not a problem because it's small, it's not large quantity, according to how scholars put it, that does not actually break fast. That does not break fast. That's just the difference. Because coping, actually do coping, you have to take a lot of blood here and there. So it's synonymous to large blood donation, as has been explained by the scholars here. So it's by inference. Now, medication under the tongue. You see, there are some uh, medication for certain treatment, for instance, especially for the heart patients, angina or heart attack, for instance. What they do is that capsule or thereabout, they have to put it uh, under the tongue because it is believed that tongue is one of the fastest absorption side for treatment in the body. So when the pill is pulled under the tongue, it dissolves and absorbs directly into the bloodstream. And within seconds, it actually reaches the heart, and then the pain, that tightness, and everything will go fast. You see, yes, it's absorbed into the bloodstream, but let us remember what Allah said in the Quran is very simple. Allah said, Kulu washrabu. You should eat and drink until حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود. That you should eat when it is thread or don't become distinct to you. That immediately become distinct, stop eating and stop drinking. So what invalidate fasting is eating or drinking. But this one, as scholars have rightly put it, in actual it was a big discussion in the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, where scholars, which is based in Jeddah, established by OIC, a lot of discussion that also involved scholars and also doctors. Then the conclusion is that it is not food. So the default ruling is that such fasting is valid. And in addition, that medication does not actually reach the stomach. It actually enters the bloodstream, but it goes to the what? It goes to the heart where it is actually help to uh, help the patient so that the pain or what is going through is actually is relieved of that problem. So the ruling is that medication under the tongue like that does not actually break fast. Another one, stomach endoscopy. You know what is done here is that the medical device that enter through the mouth into the throat, then it gets to the stomach where they use it to take images, detect if there's any ulcer or inflammation, and they can use it to extract samples for analysis. Actually, on this issue, there are three opinions. There are three opinions. First opinion, when you use that endoscopy, for instance, so the question is, does that invalidate your fast or not? The three school of thought, Malikis, Shafi, and Ambalis, actually say that it invalidates the fast because it goes through the throat, it goes through the mouth. One of the outer food we are talking about, another is also going through the mouth. That's what they say. Anything that go through your mouth, for instance, they say the nose also, anything that go through those places, invalidate the fast. That is what they said. And so on that note, they said no, it invalidates the fast. Opinion number two, that is from Anofis. They say that it does not invalidate the fast if it does not remain inside or it is connected to the outside. That it is not really there, it's still connected to the outside, then it does not invalidate uh, uh, it does not invalidate fasting. The opinion number three, which actually Allah Alam is the most favorable one, because this has just been recently analyzed again by IFA, and a lot was discussed on it. They say since even though it goes in there and it comes out, it does not invalidate the fast, provided no liquid or greasy substances accompany its insertion. And if that does not happen, then it does not invalidate the fast. That person can still continue to fast in as much as that is done and does not lead to any other complication that we will now use that to categorize that person that is sick. But if it's just the test and it's not more than this and does not go with any liquid or greasy substance, then it is does not invalidate the fast. Wallah alam. Opinion number three sound more correct. Wallah alam. And this is what at the 1993 resolution that was done, this is what they came up with, and that is it. Wallah alam. Number four, receiving blood transfusion is just like blood donation as well. Those that donate it and those receiving it, this actually break fast because of what? Blood nourishes body similar to food, and that is it. Remember the two principles that I mentioned before now. Number five, injections and intravenous drips. You see, these are in two categories. It is vaccine, antibiotics, insulin, pain relief injection, suppositories, all this, which they do not contain anything like uh, anything that replace food, anything that will actually nourish the body, that will now be similar to food. They do not break your fast. They do not break your fast. For instance, the insulin. Insulin itself is not food. It just regulates carbohydrate and all stuff, things like that for a diabetic patient. If the person can still fast, it's okay. But if the diabetic nature or nature of diabetes is so strong or so serious that that person cannot be categorized as a sick person, then depend whether that is temporary or if it is chronic illness, then it's or depend that it can pay it back later on. That is different issue. But for that is using insulin, that is not enough to say the person has broken his fast. That does not break fast. That which break fast is any IV intravenous injection that is nutritional, that contain glucose, etc., etc. In that case, that break fast. So the principle remains the same as I've said in the beginning. Anything that replaces food has the same ruling as food. And if it is not food, then it does not actually break the fast. But remember, all these things they're talking about here, they are not actually through the mouth or the nose. But these are fasting through the body and things like that, or suppository that maybe through the anus, anything like that. On that note, these are okay and they can be used. This is what scholars have said, and they still base it on the same general principle that these are not food, but rather they are other things that one can use. Number 6, this is another interesting one. I mean, and this is common in UK climate because of the weather and everything. Uh, Asthmatic patient that are using inhaler. Yes, scholars also have different views here because even when you use that inhaler, it may contain some little fluid that may actually get into your throat somehow. But the stronger scholarly opinion here is that that amount is very, very, very small that goes too long. So it does not break your fast and it's not nutritive. But if it is, as they call it, this capsule that contain powder, if it is placed in the mouth and mixed with the saliva before swallowing, that does invalidate the fast because it has substance and is therefore similar to food or drink. So the one that is they are talking about inhaler here, but if it is now something you have to swallow now, then this actually invalidate fast, and then that person has to pay it back. Wallahu alam. This point number 6 in terms of the contemporary issues that we know. Some may have it, and then it's good to understand how we can relate with Ramadan if we find ourselves in any of these circumstances. Number 7, dialysis, whether it is hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis. This breakfast, this is the general rule, majority opinion below, because if it is hemodialysis, the blood is removed and returned. If the peritoneal, you have to put it close to the stomach of the person, and you have to use glucose in and out. So it involves exchange of nutrients. It involves exchange of nutrients like water, glucose, and salt. So if that happens, the patient is excused and need to make up his fast if he's able. But if the case is chronic, then he just need to keep on feeding the poor. It's fidya that is going to do in that situation. According to IFA, in their analysis, this the strong advice they gave is that if there are some contentious cases that are not clear what to do in things like this, consult your doctor, consult your local scholars. But no matter what local scholar wants to say, it has to be based on the doctor advice. Then juristic application to that specific patient is what need to be followed. So medical fact first, then other things follows. To tell you that Islam always look at this situation in the way that it wants to protect life. So there must be clarity on those things before any rulings is provided. So, okay. All right. Number 8, toothpaste and dental treatment. We all know this, so I don't spend much time. It's permissible. You just need to avoid swallowing it. This does not break fast unless swallowed deliberately. That is why we want to use it, be extra careful and avoid swallowing it. And the other one is this, that's going along with this is the filling the braces, rinsing of the mouth with mouthwash and all sort of things like that. These do not break fast unless they are swallowed deliberately. In that circumstance, then you have to pay back the fast. This is not smoking. This another thing is a thing that you know of. Uh, Smoking is forbidden in Islam. Let's get that right. Because it's harmful to health, and doctors also unanimously agree on its harmful effect. And scholars follow suit. Because it is harmful and it's of no benefit to the health as a result. Anything that without taking and second, do not kill yourself with your own hand. Do not kill yourself. So this is actually is haram. So the ruling is very simple. To now do such thing or to smoke in the month of Ramadan is actually it will validate your fast. Allah Allah. So the eye and the eardrop, this one's coming through the other outlet that is not seen to be mouth or nose, then they do not actually invalidate your fast. Even if you feel the taste or the taste are felt in your throat after using it, they does not invalidate your fast because you are getting them into your body not through the normal passage to stomach. So as a result, there's no plan. They are not nutritive, by the way. So this is exactly the analysis given by the scholars. And anesthesia. This is another interesting topic that we need to understand. If it is local, that is just within certain parameter within your body and it's not something so complex, the fast is valid. But it is something that is actually general and lasts for the entire day. They don't even know what is happening throughout the whole day. One just slip off completely, then the fast is invalid. But what they're saying is that if it does not last for the entire day, one able to regain his consciousness for part of the day, whether at the beginning, middle, or end, then the fast is valid. That means that person is actually able to wake up before Maghrib and it's okay, then the fast is okay. But if it is such that it's just throughout the day and you don't know what is happening, then the fast is actually not valid according to majority opinion. There's a lot of discussion around this, but this is the conclusion, and that actually I think I just try to summarize it for you here, which I hope it is clear, inshallah. Now, long UK summer fast. How do you do if it is long UK? I mean, it is summer, it is long day, and that may reach up to 18 plus. As Muslims, still follow your local sunset. You cannot say you are in UK now. You want to follow Makkah timing at sunset. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. Allah knows why you are in UK, and as a result, Allah will take care. On that note, just prepare yourself very well with what you can prepare yourself with, but you need to still follow your local time. But if medically harmful, and that is validated through doctor, then break fast and make up later on. Make up later on. Allah Allah. Exam during Ramadan, GCSE level, university exam, all those. You see, exams alone are not a valid excuse. For instance, we say long summer, that person also write exam as well. Unfortunately, or as it is, exam alone are not a valid excuse. But if you now have that person now has severe medical could occur, then that person can break the fast and make up because medical necessity has come in now, then that person can actually break fast and make up later on. So some advice here. I mean, it's not that just want to eat anyhow. When you want to take your sahur, look at the type of food that will last you long. So the nutrition expert can give some advice on this. Have plan your hydration, the way you want to take water, plan it very well. And your sleep management is also very important. All this may actually help to minimize the effect of hunger and hydration during the long summer period or when you are preparing for exams, which I think is going to help. So that is all. But I give about 13 instances here that UK peculiar and it's also elsewhere. If there are other one you want to ask question on, inshallah, we can always answer that. We can always discuss that. But that is it. But before I wrap up, who is excused from fasting? I think that's very clear. One, the sick. Allah this saying Al-Quran Karim. Whoever is ill. Then there are two categories here. Temporary illness. If it's temporary illness, yes, that person is not required to fast, but you have to make up later on. But it is chronic, then fidya is what is happening here. You feed one poor person per day. That day, and that person is not fasting, they need to feed one poor day. And you have to do that for 29 or 30 days in the month of Ramadan. This is what is preferred, this is what is better. Number two, the elderly. If you're unable to fast permanently, they feed one person, poor person per day. This also, based on this also, Salam, are going to what Ibn Abbas said in Bukhari. And pregnancy and breastfeeding. If a person fear harm either to himself, to herself, or the baby, he may actually break fast and make it up later. There are some scholastic discussion on if the fear is on the baby and not on the mother itself. Some scholars actually say that if the fear is on the baby and not on the mother, she needs to break the fast, but she needs to do fidya, and then later on she also needs to make up. And some said no, you only need to make up, as someone said. But if the fear is for the mother herself, not for the baby, then you just need to make you just need to make up, no fidya. But if it is both the fear is for the mother and the baby, then it's just to make up the fast only. It's no fidya as well. So these are some of the explanation that have been given by scholars with respect to pregnancy uh, and breastfeeding with respect to this. But overall, the first thing again is seek knowledgeable advice for personal situation. And if doctor might have spoken now, then one can actually look at what the scholars will say with respect to your peculiar case. So that is another thing. Before we wrap, which is the last, I think this is the last, second to the last slide, is that let us remember one thing, dear brothers and sisters. Ramadan, let us have that spirit of Ramadan. What is that spirit? The spirit is what? Kutiba alaykum siyam. Kama kutiba alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. The essence of Ramadan is what? For you to learn piety. That is the essence of Ramadan. That's what Surah Salam made it clear. Whosoever does not live false speech, Allah has nothing to do with him not eating or drinking. So that is why, please let us always remember that Ramadan is not just that you don't eat or you don't drink. True fasting actually includes fasting with your tongue, fasting with your eyes, with your heart, and your social behavior. People should know that you're in the month of Ramadan. To the extent that even if somebody wants to want to quarrel with you, just saying he saw him, I'm fasting. Don't get angry in the month of Ramadan. Let your eyes fast. Let your tongue also fast. Apart from you not eating or drinking. And let your heart also be full of dhikr and Allah's remembrance. That is when you can actually get best out of the month of Ramadan. So that to God is also very important. That day is better than 1,000 months, like we equivalent to 3 years. So we all encourage to fast, I mean, to be in Qiyam, to be in Dua, and to do a lot of charity during this time. It's worthwhile to take that day off so that you can be in the mosque to meet Qiyam, say those hot periods, so you can say Allah's Ram, Allah's mercy, because it is better than 1,000 months. So that is it. Practical takeaways, dear brothers and sisters, is that let us remember in this month of Ramadan, avoid workplace gossip. Not only workplace, anytime you are together in a gathering, avoid gossip. This is not time for gossip. Limit your social media. I've seen instances of brothers and sisters that this month of Ramadan, they have resolved that, okay, WhatsApp, let me put it aside. Even if for some basic important things, fine. But don't be distracted this month with social media, Facebook, YouTube, all kind of things. Any slight opportunity you have, please let us spend it on Ibadah. Attend Tarawih, support converts now, especially you that in UK, those converts that also are just fasting for the first time, support them and engage in charity locally. You get reward for all these things. So in summary, we have been able to talk about what are those things that break the fast, the medical rulings with respect to this, who is excused, and what are the spiritual dimensions that will help you to maximize fasting in the month of Ramadan. So finally, Ramadan is about taqwa, not just hunger. Thank you for listening, and we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to spare our life to meet so that we can fast in the month of Ramadan. Allahumma balighna Ramadan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفرك لي ولكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan for that revision session for some of us, and I'm sure you've learned one or two things. I've picked up quite a few things actually. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward our stars for that very refreshing dimension to discussing fiqh of Ramadan. Very, very practical, as you would agree with me, I'm sure. So inshallah, we would have time now for questions and answer. If you do have questions, if you want to raise your hand using the Zoom function, or if you want to prefer to type it, inshallah, we'll pick it up. Those of you watching on YouTube, you could type your question in the chat area, and inshallah, I'll pick those questions. So whilst I wait for people to raise their hands or type in their questions, if you start, if you don't mind, I'm going to be sharing my screen as well, just to tell you what is to come, inshallah, in this month of Ramadan from MFB. So we have our Ramadan tafsir session like we always do during the weekends of Ramadan. So Saturday, Sunday, majority of them will be between 1:30 and 3 p.m. If that time changes, inshallah, we would inform us in due course. So we have tafsir, and this year, inshallah, the theme of our tafsir, which is still related to what we've been doing in the past few years, is mastering the tongue, the double-edged sword. And we'll be tweeting the verses related to this theme. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala please. I'm looking forward to it. There are so many things we could learn from it. And we have our scholars, inshallah, that will be going to the tafsir with us during the month of Ramadan. So it's going to be Saturdays, Sundays, every day starting from next week, every weekend starting from next week, 21st to 20 and 22nd next week, and then every weekend afterwards, inshallah. So make it a date with us. Use between your Zoo and Asel with us and MFB to learn a bit more about the Quran. As we know, the month of Ramadan is indeed the month of the Quran. Do we have any questions? Anyone raising their hands? I would like to maybe comment on a couple of things if Ustaz allows me. When Ustaz was mentioning the issue of anesthesia, those who are taking general anesthesia, some scholars said it doesn't break their fast if it's not the whole day and things like that. Some people will be wondering, if you are going to be taking general anesthesia, I mean, that means you must be very unwell for you to be put to sleep. Oh, why would you want to fast during that situation anyways? And there are situations actually that you could be absolutely fine and they have to put you through general anesthesia. There's what they call EUA, an examination under anesthesia. For example, like the gastroscopy. So people cannot tolerate it. I hope I would never have to have it. I can't imagine having it myself. Some people are absolutely fine. They tried a couple of times and they won't be able to tolerate that, gastroscopy, which is the camera through your mouth or through the back passage or through the genitals and things like that. These kind of people that requires those investigations, even though they are fully well, they might need to put them to sleep temporarily for them to be able to do those examinations. So you see now, when the scholars tell us that if it's not going to be a full day, Islam is perfect, Allahu Akbar. So it makes things easier for you that you don't have to be absolutely sick for you to have this condition. And in those situations, Islam already have an answer for you. Allahu Akbar. So that I think that's it. That's absolutely very important as well. The other point that Ustaz mentioned, I'm mentioning this because being from the healthcare area, I think it's important for me to clarify a couple of things. There are some antibiotics, Ustaz mentioned that antibiotics doesn't break fast. And this probably will be a question to the Ustaz. There are some antibiotics that you actually need water to mix them to go into your blood. I'm not talking about intramuscular now, I'm talking about intravenous. Some of those, non-nutritious sort of medicine, they will still need more water as a medium, saline as a medium to mix them together for them to actually put it through your veins. So in those situations where water is used, would the same ruling still apply that they don't break fast, or would they break fast because the water is involved in it? That would be my first question, Ustaz. Ayakumullah.
If water is included, then it breaks fast.
Naam.
If
Nice.
water is included, then because water is water, huh?
Naam.
So on that note, yeah, that actually breaks fast because that also be seen as one way or the other, no matter how small it may be, as a nutrient in a way, which is not different from. But if what we're seeing here is that antibiotics that it is actually purely medicinal and it has to be taken through the vein, anything like that, then that is okay. But if it has to go with water, then that is nutrient.
Naam.
It's
Jazakumullah khair.
better to make it up later on. Wallah, wallah.
Naam. There's a question here already. Please, what is the ruling for making up of ejaculation by desire? Because it's one of those area that you mentioned that it nullifies your fast. So they brought a scenario here. A scenario is when the husband kisses the wife deeply in Ramadan, without the intention of cohabiting. But as a result of that, something comes out. I mean, does this require just qada or it requires kafara as well? I mean, does it even affect the fast at all? Hasanullah alaikum.
Well, if it is intentional one, that is by desire, as you said, two things will happen here. If it has led to the, I mean, the real ejaculation of money, the sperm itself, the real money, then that actually break one's fast and he has to do qada. It's qada was a major sin. One has to be careful and run away from it. But it is, as I've explained, it is just the pre-ejaculation fluid, which of course not as thick as the money, yet is frowned at. It's also not very good, it's not good, as scholars have said, but that actually has not actually vitiated uh, one's fasting. But as that been said, the best, I mean, for anybody that is a conscious Muslim is avoid all this kind of thing the month of Ramadan. It's better for you. It's better for you. But that is the explanation as scholars explain it. If it is by desire and it is money, then that is just qadar and it's a major sin. But it is mazi, that does not actually breaking one's fast, and but one has to be careful of going to such arena because it's the area of makruh. So one has to be careful of doing such thing. In the month of Ramadan. Wallah alam.
Now, related to that, Ustaz, what if in a situation where one had or having sexual intercourse with the wife, but without ejaculation, would that
If it
still?
is no, that already is actually major sin, and that person has to do kafara, period.
Okay,
It's
regardless.
not, it's not
Regardless.
regardless, he has to do kafara.
And is it for
And
both?
you have to follow those five
No.
steps, stages I've explained. He has to follow it.
So basically, matter is in the Ustaz is telling.
No, at all, man, no. It's not a matter of whether that person reach climax or not. No, he
No.
has to. So
All right.
be far away from it.
And it's for both of
Wallah.
them, the husband and
For
the
both
wife.
of them, yes, for both of them. Question
Unless,
may come. I don't okay, let me just quickly come in now. Question may come that okay, for a woman, how can she fast 60 days consecutively? Yes, you can fast 60 days consecutively. That means she keep on fasting. When it is her menstrual period, she stop. And when the menstrual ceases, she continue again. It
Allahu
has to be
Akbar.
consecutive.
Allahu
Yeah,
Akbar. The question here, which I think you've already answered, does blood test invalidate fasting? Ustaz mentioned that it doesn't. Is that correct,
it
Ustaz?
doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
No,
Blood test, the small quantity of for that blood, no, it doesn't.
no. What is khudu? Abdul Rahman, what do you mean by khudu?
I think it's
Qadar,
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 Qadar that you said, yeah.
qadar. Yeah.
Although, okay. Although, although just mean that it's like if somebody sick, for instance, and he cannot fast or is on a journey and he cannot fast after the month of Ramadan now, you need to pay it back. Because what is a woman that menstruated now, she need to pay it back. So it's like a debt. And so after Ramadan now, paying that back is like you are paying back a debt. That's why they call it qadar. So it's like paying back debt. So that's what they call qadar. Paying back the fast the one might have missed. That's what they call qadar.
Naam. There's a question here, Ustaz.
Okay?
Naam, naam. Jazakallah khairan. There's a question here. Is it okay for someone to hold the Quran whilst praying Tarawih behind the Imam or the Imam himself?
Okay. That this is scholarly this is scholarly debated. I think school of thought differ on this, really. According to the Anabila, they're saying that no, it's only the Imam, for instance, that can hold the Quran. Why those following supposed not to hold? But it's not better for any one of them not to hold Quran. That's why you have to look for the person that has memorized the Quran a lot. That's what has been said. But if you look at it from out of some scholars look at it, aspect of khushu, an aspect of saying you want to not hold the Quran, right? Wallah alam, it's good to make effort to know Quran off hand, but if it will increase your memorize your khushu in the salat, why not? Can hold it. But yes, some scholars actually frown at it not hold Quran, especially those that are praying behind the Imam. Do you get what I'm saying? But some scholars also say that no, there's nothing wrong. You can hold the Quran in as much as when you read the Quran, it will help you to increase your khushu, your concentration, then do it. So the choice is yours. Wallah alam, the choice is yours, and that which one are you more comfortable with? But what you just have to be careful of now is that if you are now holding the Quran, if you want to hold the Quran, be careful of reading ahead of the Imam. Be careful. That can be tempting, right? Be careful of with your tongue or anything reading about. No, be careful of such thing. Be doing that. So, wallah alam.
Naam. Brother Chakula Badmas, please go ahead and ask a question.
Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah Ustaz.
Wa alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair. I have a question regarding women. Women, we know that during some period they will have to break their fast. If for some reasons a woman who made some fast in Ramadan and then passed away, perhaps just after Ramadan, and could not make up for those fasts, is the woman excused? So, or do we have to pay maybe fidya on behalf of that woman, or what are we supposed to do in that instance? Jazakumullah khair.
Wa iyyakum.
What has been said is that it's still like a debt of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those that are very close to that woman, those that can inherit the person, they can help her to do the qadar. For those that can, that is why you see people that inherit, it's not to know that you inherit. Some of the responsibility of that person as well. After his or her demise, you need to be responsible for it as well. That's starting from the children and all those people, then because it's like a debt, okay? And that's why I call it qadar, right? That's why I call it qadar. So you can do it for that person, wallahu alam. But and that is why some scholars have opinion that if somebody is actually has to pay some fast after Ramadan, the earlier you do it, the better, because you don't know what will happen. So that's one of the reasons why some scholars say that it's better to pay back those fasting as soon as possible than delaying it till the next Ramadan, close to the next Ramadan. So this is the view that I'm actually more prone to. It's respect to say that to be paid back, but by the people that are very close to the person in terms of this. paying back of the qada of the Ramadan. Wallahu alam.
Jazakallah khairan. Yes, Dr. Shakula, please go ahead.
Now, I just want to clarify, just a follow-up question. So based on, if I understand what Ustad said, we have to do qada, which means we have to fast on behalf of that person. Is that correct? Or we pay
Yes.
few. Okay, fast. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I have a follow-up question. I think one of my friends, when I was talking to him like a couple of days, was saying that maybe some people, some rich people, they can pay some people to fast on their behalf. You know, if is it, the question is, can someone fast of another person on behalf of another person that is living? And this time that person is living, but because they are lazy or they don't have any illness. No, there's no illness, but they are kind of scared of it. So can they say, okay, I'm going to feed you, you fast on my behalf? Is that valid?
No, you cannot. Nobody can deceive Allah. That's like deception. In actual fact, the essence of fasting, one of the main reasons is that you also need to feel the pain that those that do not have used to feel. That do not say give money to some people to fast on your behalf. Abba, no, that is not right. It's like trying to deceive Allah, and that Allah can never be deceived. That person, unless if he's chronically sick, everything is sick, then Islam has made it clear. Do fidya at that time. Not that now press people to fast on your behalf. No, 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 no. That is not right. That's not right. I thought of the Qadar I just explained earlier on. Let's get it right. It is people that are very close to the concerned person we're talking about, like the children, like the husband, and not like that. So, but not just anybody. No, 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 no. No. And if I recall very well, some scholars actually said no. The person has got a responsibility, and that is it. Wallah alam.
Jazakallah khairan. SO, please go ahead and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Wa alaikum
Alaikum
salam.
salam.
Thank you for the lecture. So I just want to ask a question about reciting Quran during Ramadan for females. During the menstrual period, can one recite maybe from one's phone, and rather than if you cannot hold the Quran, is it okay to recite from one's phone, and does that still count as like part of the Quran you are reading for during the Ramadan period?
Jazakallah khairan.
Yes, you can. You can. In actual fact, even you can hold Quran, but what you just do is that let there be a barrier between the Quran and your hand. That's just what you can do as well with the Quran. For instance, you can actually have a kind of that's why I see some actually putting on gloves most of the time so that they want to have a barrier between their hand and the Quran. Because the Quran, it depends. If you are someone that is actually memorizing Quran and you don't want to forget, so that's opportunity. If somebody wants to use as for kind of dua and anything, it's an opportunity. Or you have already used to reading certain portion here and there, it's an opportunity. You can still do it. But the important is that yes, you can use phone as you rightly said. Some say that if you want to hold Quran, the important thing is that let there be a career between you and that Quran. Do just hold only with your hand alone. Wallah.
Jazakumullah
Thank you.
khairan. That's quite a few questions answered. I think we got about 3 minutes before we end today's session. I'm just going to check on YouTube quickly. So no questions on YouTube. Any questions here until we finish? So just to remind us again, so this will be the last Ramadan Usrah. In Ramadan, we have our special program, Ramadan Tafsir, coming out every weekend after Salatul Duhur between 1:30 and 3 p.m. There will be a couple of sessions that will be a different time, but we'll communicate that in due course. So please do join us during the weekends in Ramadan to learn and to learn the understanding of the Quranic verses, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our ustad in knowledge and in patience. It's very late in Saudi Arabia, I understand. But Allah, the ustad has given his time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him abundantly and bless his family. It would be nice to see ustad again, inshallah. So on this point, inshallah, I think we'll release ustad Ahsanallahu ilaykum wa jazakumullahu khairan. And to everyone listening as well, wa jazakumullahu khairan for joining us for this Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this Ramadan the best Ramadan ever. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us reach it and many more Ramadan in our life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make all our plans, the good ones and the ibadah that we plan to do in Ramadan, make it something we will be able to achieve and even more. We ask Allah
Am-
subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us before the Ramadan and purify us. So,
Amen.
Ustaz, I
Amen.
don't know if
Amen.
you have any final words before we finish, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. And my prayer is that I pray as Allah spare our life to witness this Ramadan and accept all our effort, our dua, and ibadah in this month of Ramadan as act of ibadah and overlook our shortcomings.
Ameen.
Allahumma baligna Ramadan. Jazakumullah khairan kaseeran. And it's my pleasure to be with us, really. Thank you very much.
Ameen.
Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan, Ustaz.
Wa
So,
yakum.
on that
Salaam
note,
alaikum
we
wa rahmatullahi wa
finish.
barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Shadu an la
Shukran.
ilaha illa anta.
Yes.
Nastaghfiruka wa
Wa
natubu
alaikum.
ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم
وعليكم
السلام ورحمة
السلام.
الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله
جزاكم الله
خيرا.
خيرا كثيرا. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, it's on. It's on.
عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وأعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا والنازعات غرقا